Ladies and gentlemen, let's go over most of what's happening over the NFL offseason that really blows off, I think, the 14th. Either way, later this March, we will have the NFL free agency. And we already had one of our victims in mediocrity, and that came in 2016 when the former one time Pro Bowler after the Panthers Cinderella 15 and 1 NFL season, making it to Super Bowl 50. One of the anchors and loudmouths on the secondary and defense of the Carolina Panthers when Cam Newton had his MVP year was, of course, Josh Norman. That after getting in free agency of that year, he signed a $75 million 5-year deal contract with the Washington Redskins. Did it go anywhere? Did it make them have the playoff win? Or did he get burnt every play, continuously getting into fights, and had issues on and off the field, cancerous around the locker room, could barely defend or read spots, leave deep ends or give third string receivers a career night every other goddamn week. Josh Norman fucking sucked at Washington and was a one-trick pony when he was in Carolina. It sucks to know that he is now in Buffalo, one of the most enacted and successful defensive teams that just recently made it over to the playoffs, and he came from just making a $75 million contract to a 1 year, $6 million, because he knows he's up in death row of his career, now playing in 32, and for some players, that's like playing 45, and that's like being 45 and still playing Beyblade. It really is. I mean, it's harsh, but you know what I'm talking about. He only has 2 picks of his career, and he's barely touched anybody. He really has been trash, and that has been was not even supposed to. It was a double entendre. Okay, I am being a bit of a hard ass on Josh Norman because I expected a bit more because this was technically his Pro Bowl year of 2015. Then 2016 happened. He hasn't performed or been that consistent since his first signing, his first year, and then the latter half because he couldn't read routes, he couldn't read over the quarterback. He's barely been efficient in most plays, and his best career was just when he was just 31 years old. 3 picks, barely a tackle for loss. He's barely showed up. And now here he is, play on death's door on the best defensive unit in pro football, and that's the Buffalo Bills. And and, and I don't want to be this like he's only 6'1", an aging guy like that, and you only have an average size being a secondary with very little athleticism and a temper to maybe punch an old lady. There's a problem with Josh Norman. And that's like Bengals territory for Josh Norman if you want to be a cancerous secondary Pac-Man, and it's Pac-Man Adam Jones, and it just I don't know why that's spitting out of my mouth, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm saying that he's a piece of shit. And guys like him that are only a one-trick pony, uh, you know, don't have the most successful careers in the NFL, and most people know this for a fact. And I'm not saying this to just be a dick. I'm being realistic here. Because it's just showing how shit Josh Norman is as a secondary, as a leader, being an anchor, or being an athlete, or just being selfless in general. And now you have to play off with a team that hasn't hit 10 wins since 1999. That has been the constant mediocrity of the 2000s, only making a handful of playoff appearances and haven't been a great team since 2017. They had a decent defense. Tyrod Taylor was mediocre. No running game. I think they had Frank Gore, and that was technically it. I'm not being a dick. That's literally it. They had a great defensive unit, and they still do to this day, that are still in rookie contracts. Josh Allen, that's a terrible field general. Pretty alright running game. Missing a few receivers. An O-line that can put up some decent blocking numbers. And they had a pretty good underwhelming season, going over 10 wins when they had an underwhelming regular season record. They literally just snuffed anybody that was below 500 or just really struggling over the season. Like the Jets, Giants, they beat the Bengals, that was expected. They beat the Titans, Dolphins, Eagles that were struggling sub 500 in the middle of the season. They were at least 3 games behind the Cowboys at that point, but the Cowboys dug themselves in the hole. The Redskins sucked. They lost to Cleveland. That was its whimper. Then they snuffed the Dolphins one time. They snuffed the Broncos. They snuffed the Cowboys when they were scratching and clawing from number 1 of the NFC East, but fell down over the last few games, especially Week 17 when it was a must loss for the Eagles. When both of them I think, had a near tie record, and then they had to play against real teams like the Baltimore Ravens, the Patriots for the second time, and then they snuff around the Jets in Week 17. That was technically it. Josh Allen, he has great athleticism and great speed, and he's a decent short passer. Other than that, he has no accuracy, no patience, and he obviously can't think of stuff on the fly. But but he's an okay. He's an okay quarterback, pretty good quarterback. I hope they play a decent fast style around him. I don't expect him to be like a Lamar Jackson, but he has the height and speed, and you need that in a quarterback. Just make him work on his arm. And the rest of their team is pretty good on athletes, even taking a steal from T.J. Yeldon from the Jaguars. And then we have their goddamn defense. That's Jordan Poyer, Tremaine Edmonds, Tre'Davious White, Ed Oliver. Great players. A secondary will make anybody seem like a fool. And we're putting Josh Norman just there for veteran help. And a veteran contract, because he's trash. Josh Norman doesn't deserve a contract with a playoff contending team. He deserves to be where the fuck the Bengals are, because of his overconfident personality, and his newest contract was coming up with the obvious Redskins trying to at least do an overhaul and actually do something with their goddamn lives over starting 2 quarterbacks ahead, Cinderella stories, and the rookie QB that didn't even start a game until the latter half of the season. So I'm just curious at this point why Josh Norman deserves a contract. I can go over his average little rough and gruff physical play style that's not good at all at this point of football. He could have been good like mid-2000s football, but not good in this style of football where athleticism really plays a factor. Speed does as well, and actual being smart is important, especially for a secondary. So I'm just agitated at this point. But that's it. That's practically it. Josh Norman's a Bill. Hope the Bills get the same record as they did last year, because I don't expect them doing much this offseason, except at least playing to their strengths and trying to build over the draft. But congrats to the Bills making it to the playoffs for the second time in 3 years. That's a positive. So that's technically it. Hopefully you comment. Love to hear everybody's feedback. Like the video, of course. Subscribe. Join the nation of Domin.